Most people think that the budget for GTA 6 is somewhere around $1 and $2 billion. And I wanted to figure out the real number, the actual budget of GTA 6. So I calculated the operating costs of Rockstar Games from 2019, a bit after the release of RDR2, to the expected release of GTA 6 on November 19th, 2026. So watch through the video to see all my accurate calculations down to the cents, to get the absolute minimum budget, and then additional estimates to that to get the high and low estimates of the budget. And the results are going to surprise you. I can guarantee that. My name is Saukko, and I know a lot of things about GTA 6. However, I'm not an accountant, so some of the things I calculate in this video might be wrong, and my methods might not be the most efficient ones. So just bear with me, and please correct my mistakes. Let's look for a baseline for the budget of GTA 6. Currently, some of the media releases with the highest production costs are the video game Star Citizen, RDR2 at approximately 540 million, and then some blockbuster movies passing or coming close to 500 million. Of course, most of those numbers are just estimates, and no official numbers have ever been released for any of them. But as GTA 6 seems to be massive, it's very likely that it's going to be the most expensive media product ever so far. And of course, it's going to be at least more expensive than RDR2. So to figure out the budget, we need to make some assumptions, which means that the final number we come to will be an estimation and might not represent the real budget of GTA 6. I'll be assuming that Rockstar has been only working on GTA 6 since the start of fiscal year 2020. So the money they put into GTA Online and RDO is negligible compared to the total operating costs of Rockstar Games. We know that Rockstar started working on the game in 2014 as they were scouting areas for the game, and full development started somewhere 2019 to 2020 according to Strauss-Zelnick. And from the 2022 leaks, we can see that a lot of work was already put into the game in 2019. But how do we start the progress of figuring out the budget? Well, probably the three highest expenses for Rockstar are leasing, so renting their studios, office supplies and equipment, like computers and servers, and labor and salaries, which typically is the highest expense in game development. And that seems to be the case with GTA 6 too. So, we need to determine two things. How many employees does Rockstar have, and what's the average salary of an employee? We can just Google how many people work at Rockstar Games. 6,000 employees. And LinkedIn says that they have bit more than 5,000 employees. I wonder what's the source for that info. How many people do they have per studio? The only thing that really appears is this image, which does state that Rockstar has about 6,000 employees in total. However, as I'm making this video in the future, I know that Rockstar Lincoln definitely has less than 900 employees. So, what's the original source of this image? Let's just reverse image search it. Oldest match is this Twitter post, and it's made by, oh fucking no, GTA 6 Countdown. So the source for Rockstar Games having 6,000 employees is a notorious Twitter misinfo account. Oh my fucking god. So that is a dead end, but from this we can see that Rockstar has 10 studios. Well, actually 11, as Rockstar Australia exists, but they have probably less than 20 people working there, so we can assume that they don't matter. Otherwise, we have studios in 4 different countries. United Kingdom, with studios in London, Lincoln, Leeds, Edinburgh, and Dundee. Then Rockstar India in Bengaluru, 1 studio in Rockstar Toronto, Rockstar New England, New York, Los Angeles, and San Diego in United States. And we will probably need to determine the average salary in each of these countries, because it's very likely that the average salary in Rockstar India is way less than in US. Let's start with Rockstar India, as that's maybe the easiest one, as if we trust Kiwi Talks, Rockstar India has 1,600 employees, which makes sense according to GTA Wiki, which actually recently moved from fandom to a new address gta.wiki. So in the future, avoid using the fandom version of GTA Wiki and use the wiki at gta.wiki. When Rockstar India became a part of Rockstar Games, they had about 800 employees in 2019, and they have been hiring heavily since, so 800 to 1,600 employees. How about the average salary? Well, we can kinda use Glassdoor. This is not an ad. Glassdoor is a fucking shit website, and they collect more user data than fucking anything else. So don't join it unless you need a job or something. But basically, here employees can declare their salary and at what position they are working at in the company. So if we just take how many people work in each role in the company and get the average salary of each role, we can determine the average salary of a person working in Rockstar India, which is about $6,000 US, and the minimum overhead costs per employee is 20%. So I'm just gonna use that number, which brings fees per employee to a bit over $7,000. And if we assume that Rockstar India has been growing linearly, so gaining same amount of employees every year, and assuming that the salaries have stayed constant, which they most likely have not. But anyways, we come to the number of 66 million US dollars from the start of fiscal year 2020 to November 19th, 2026. So basically negligible when we are talking about the billions of dollars. Then let's take a look at the UK, and things actually get surprisingly more different. And these calculations about India were kinda useless. So after trying to figure out these things for a few days, I actually realized that a lot of financial statements in the United Kingdom are public. So if I just go to gov.uk and there to Rockstar Games UK Limited, we can find full accounts going all the way back to the establishment of the company. And we got really lucky with this, as since 2018, all of the different studios have all been combined to be under the same limited liability company. And if you actually look at the other studios here, few of them have actually been dissolved very recently, actually during the making of this video. And from these filings, we can also see how many people worked in individual studios of Rockstar Games around 2017. For example, Rockstar Leeds in 2017 had 80 employees. And of course, as all of the studios have been under the same company since 2018, we can just take the employee amounts from Rockstar Games UK Limited. And this document also shows salaries and other expenses. And these numbers even include overhead costs like pensions and social security costs. So if I add the salaries from 2019 to the release of the game up in a spreadsheet, we get the number 2.7 billion for only people working in UK. So something must be wrong here. If we look at the statements from 2019, we can see that staff expenses were about 90 million. However, if we look at the statement from the next year, 2022, we can see that they restated the expenses from 2019 and increased them all the way to 200 million. So at least to me, it seems like they started counting the salaries of all studios globally in this Rockstar Games UK Limited document, even though the amount of employees is from studios from the UK. Or it could be something like foreign bonuses, so like performance rewards, which won't include salaries. However, if we try to start figuring out the salaries of the other studios from outside the UK, we might accidentally end up double counting some numbers. So it's better to assume that this number is the total salaries and bonuses worldwide for all Rockstar Games studios. However, it probably excludes overhead costs for countries that are not the UK. So, for overhead costs in India, we can use the previous Glassdoor estimates, while for the US, I'm just gonna take the number of UK overhead costs, as in general they are bigger in the United States, and Rockstar Games probably has more employees there, so taking the UK number is a very low estimate. I also had to estimate some salaries which aren't public yet, from April 1st, 2025 to the release of the game. I'm just gonna take the number from fiscal year 2024, which ended in 2025, multiply that by 1.5, so all of fiscal 26 and half of fiscal 27, and just add those numbers to the total count. So yellow highlights like this are estimates. Then, some of the non-staff fees for Rockstar UK. And again, I'm assuming that this is for all of the studios in UK. Firstly, operating lease rentals, plant and machinery. This is only about £40,000 annually, so it really doesn't matter. However, it's maybe something like a few leased company cars or a random piece of industrial equipment. Then, operating lease rentals, land and buildings. Now, these are big numbers, averaging at about 3 to 4 million annually. So these are basically your office rents. Basically, what they pay to rent Rockstar North or Rockstar London. This number does increase a lot. So either they got more office spaces somewhere, the rents increased, or they only gradually added the offices of other studios, Rockstar Leeds, Rockstar North, Rockstar Lincoln, to be paid through Rockstar Games UK. Then, auditors' remunerations, so basically paying money to whoever made this document. Exchange losses aren't really losses, so I'm not including them in the calculation. Then, leasehold improvements, so these are your structural renovations, like a new boiler room, if they wanna tear down some walls, or install a new kitchen to one of the studios. Then computers and office equipments. That's basically self-explanatory. And then fixtures and fittings. This is basically just furniture. And yes, technically, most of these purchases are capital investments, but they are expenses during a year, so I'm going to count them into the total operating cost. I could calculate depreciation, so a loss of value for things, but I don't don't feel like that is necessary here. So no depreciation included here, only total cost of purchases. And one of these fees, I'm not sure which one, includes things like maintenance from outside contractors. So possibly your cleaning, handyman work or boiler repairs. And the bottom two lines, once again, are estimates for 1.5 years. And these expenditures from April 1st, 2019 all the way up to November 19th, 2026 comes at the cost of 100 million, which is surprisingly little when we compare it to the staff expenditures, which we talked about previously, as they were 2,688,000,000 pounds. And if we add the staff and other expenditures together, we get 2,786,000,000 pounds once again, and in United States dollars, with the current exchange rate, we come to 3.6 billion US dollars. However, as the pound is currently relatively strong compared to the US dollar, the true amount is way less in USD. If I had to guess, it's somewhere around 3 billion. And of course, these numbers do not account for inflation. So if a real accountant did this, they should include foreign exchange rates and inflation. However, let's just go with the number of 3 billion from these expenses. Then we have the question of American, Canadian, and Indian overhead costs. Do we include them in the calculation? If we add them to the previous number, so assume that they are not included in the 3 billion, then there's an additional 700 to 800 million US dollars to the count. And of course, we have other expenses for the studios outside UK. So again, rent and computers and stuff. We can assume that that is about the same as the UK, even though the rents in the United States are probably higher. But let's just keep the numbers low. So that's another $130 million. Then I think there are two more large expenses which should be included in the calculations. First, of course, marketing. Wikipedia says that RDR2s was in between 200 and 300 million US dollars. So we should assume that it's at about $500 million US dollars, so 500 million. And then music licensing, which is probably less than people think, as we have proof that Rockstar is paying most artists only $7,500 USD per a song license. So if they wanna include above 1,000 songs, and of course some licenses are going to be more expensive than that, of 7,500. So my minimum estimate for song licensing is 10 million, and the maximum about 100 million. So, my final estimates. We have the absolute low number with only confirmed fees from Rockstar Games UK Limited. All of that is going to be in pound sterling. Then there's my own minimum estimate. That's going to be in USD. And then there's going to be my high estimate. So what I want you to take away from this video is the minimum official amount and my low estimate. But also keep in mind how expensive the game could be. So, the minimum estimate for Rockstar Games operating costs from April 1st, 2019, the start of fiscal year 2020, to the release of GTA 6 on November 19th, 2026, is the previously stated 2,786,000,000 UK pounds. So the game budget is definitely 2.5 billion, way more than the previous estimate of 2 billion. That's the main point of this video, that the $2 billion is a way low estimate. Then my low estimate in US dollars. Expenses that have gone through Rockstar Games UK Limited, so most likely global salaries and other fees for all UK studios, is 3 billion US dollars, with exchange rates favoring the pound. Then other expenses outside UK have been listed as $130 million. I have excluded the possible overhead costs outside UK in this estimate, as they might be included in the 3 billion of salaries. Then a low estimate for marketing costs, 300 million USD, and song licensing at $10 million, which brings the total of the low estimate to slightly under 3.5 billion US dollars. And as previously stated, this number is possibly missing some outside UK salaries, all outside UK overhead costs, and probably other costs outside the UK. But this is the number I want to take away from here. 3.5 billion US dollars for total operating costs of Rockstar Games from 2019 to the release of GTA 6. Of course, this number does include things like dev work for GTA Online and RDR2 Online, and of course customer service guess which works for both of those. However, I'm assuming that those fees are negligible, as currently there are probably less than 20 people working on GTA Online. If you want, you can take like 1 or 200 millions away from that number. Still, it's gonna be more than $3 billion. And then the high estimate, for which you can see the numbers here with the current US dollar exchange rates, but without inflation, comes out as over $5 billion US dollars. But that's an extremely high estimate. So I think the total operating costs globally for Rockstar Games for the development of GTA 6 is going to be in between 3 billion and 4 billion US dollars. And I would love if other people actually checked out the numbers too, and if a real accountant counted the Rockstar Games UK numbers more properly, as again I don't have any accounting experience. And hey, if my estimates are wrong, at least we proved that the budget is more than £2 billion. Thank you for watching, share and like the video, as this is a video that many people should see, as there has been a lot of misinfo about this subject. Of course, subscribe to see more videos about GTA 6, and comment if I did any major mistakes in this video. Thank you.